All right, welcome. If you're about to start the ACMBEH403 unit, you are in exactly the right place. Think of this as your essential starting point. Before we even get into designing a conditioning program, there are foundational principles you've just got to get your head around. Getting these right isn't just about passing the unit, it's your first real step to becoming a skilled, ethical, and effective professional. So, let's just dive right in.
So, here's the game plan. We're going to start by talking about why this all matters in the real world, connecting the dots. Then, we'll walk through each of the 5 core principles, one by one. We're talking about knowing your animal, understanding the science of learning, choosing your methods ethically, designing a really solid plan, and then, the big one, adapting that plan based on what the animal is telling you.
Okay, let's dive right in. This unit, it's so much more than just a course you have to pass. It's really about building the skills you're going to use every single day in your career. It's all about taking that theory, that knowledge that's in your head, and actually applying it, hands-on, with animals.
To really ground this, let's just jump into a scenario I guarantee you'll face. Picture this. You're at a shelter and you meet this dog who is just terrified. You can see the whites of its eyes, that classic whale eye, and its tail is tucked so tightly underneath its body. So what do? What is your first professional step?
Well, the answer starts with your professional toolkit. And these 5 principles, they are the most essential tools you're going to have. Mastering them is what's going to help you move from feeling totally overwhelmed in that moment to acting with confidence, with ethics, and with real effectiveness.
And that brings us straight to principle number 1. Know your animal. It's so simple, but so crucial. Before you can even think about changing a behavior, you have to understand it. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here.
Now, one of the key pro tools for this is something called an ethogram. An ethogram isn't just some random list of what an animal does. No, it's a structured, objective catalog of behaviors. Think of it as your scientific baseline for what's normal for that species, which is absolutely critical if you're going to spot what's abnormal.
So what are you actually looking for? Well, everything. We're talking about observing the tiniest flicker of a cat's ear that might signal stress, all the way to their vocalizations, their overall movement, even subtle signs of their emotional state. You really have to become a detective of behavior. And look, this is why this matters so much. As your course material points out, without this baseline understanding, you're basically flying blind. You have no way of knowing if you're helping or just causing more stress. This is a non-negotiable foundation for everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, so once you've got a handle on the animal itself, we need to get into the nuts and bolts of how they actually learn. This brings us to principle 2, understand how they learn. This is the science that powers every single conditioning technique you will ever use.
You see, learning isn't just one thing. It happens through a few different channels. You've got operant conditioning. That's learning through consequences. Then there's classical conditioning, where an animal starts to associate 2 things, like Pavlov's famous dogs. And there's also something called non-associative learning. This is where an animal learns about a single stimulus. It includes habituation, which is learning to ignore something, and sensitization, which is becoming more reactive to it. You've got to be fluent in all 3.
And speaking of operant conditioning, you've absolutely got to get the difference between reinforcers. A primary reinforcer, like a piece of food, has value built in. The animal just wants it. But a secondary reinforcer, like the sound of a clicker or hearing good, only gets its value because you've paired it with that primary one over and over. Knowing when and how to use each of these is a totally fundamental skill.
And this isn't just academic trivia. Getting this theory wrong, it has real serious consequences. As the source material warns us, using the wrong technique can cause lasting harm. So this knowledge, it isn't just for exams, it's an ethical duty that underpins every single decision you're going to make.
Which really leads us perfectly into our 3rd principle. Choose your method wisely. Modern animal behavior work is absolutely defined by its commitment to ethics. It's not just about what works. It's about what is right and humane for the animal in front of you.
So to help you make these tough calls, there are these ethical frameworks you need to know inside and out. Things like LEMA, or the hierarchy of procedures. These aren't just acronyms to memorize. They are actual decision-making models that force you to always start with the least intrusive, most humane option. They are the industry standard for a reason. They put the animal's welfare first, period. So what are we really talking about when we say least intrusive? In practice, it means you start by making sure the animal's basic needs are met. It means you focus on positive reinforcement, and it means you consciously reject those old, outdated, aversive methods that rely on punishment or fear just to shut a behavior down.
And I want to be absolutely crystal clear on this point. This quote says it all. Even if a harsh method technically works, if there was a less intrusive option available and you didn't take it, that is an ethical failure. That's it. That is the high standard you are held to in this profession.
Okay, so with that ethical foundation in place, we get to Principle 4, design a clear plan. This is where we go from theory to actual structure. A true professional doesn't just wing it. They create a documented, thought-out program that can be reviewed by others.
Think of your plan like a blueprint. It's got to have these key parts: a rationale that justifies why you chose your method, really clear goals that define what success even looks like, and objective indicators so you can measure progress. You'll list your equipment and, this is critical, you'll get feedback from a mentor or supervisor before you even start.
And you might be thinking, wow, that sounds super rigid. But there's a really good reason for it, because if you can't measure your progress, you can't evaluate if your plan is working. An evaluation, it's not optional. It's a mandatory part of this unit and professional practice. This structure protects the animal, and frankly, it protects you from wasting time on a plan that's going nowhere.
And that, right there, leads us to our final and honestly, maybe the most important principle of all: observe, adapt, and evolve. Because let's be real, no plan ever survives first contact with an actual animal. Your most important job is to be responsive.
And notice how this is a cycle, right? It's not a straight line from A to B. You implement your plan, you watch and you record what happens, you assess that progress against the goals you set in your plan, and then, the crucial step, you modify the program based on what you see. Your plan is a living, breathing document.
This, right here, gets to the absolute core of what we do. When a plan isn't working, the animal isn't failing. The animal is giving you feedback. It's telling you something is off. Your timing, your method, maybe the reinforcer isn't what they want. Your biggest skill is learning how to listen to that feedback and then respond to it. So let's just recap. Know your animal, understand how they learn, choose your methods wisely, design a clear plan, and be ready to adapt constantly. These aren't just hoops to jump through for a course. They are the fundamental, interconnected skills of any modern, ethical, and truly effective animal behavior professional.
You know, when you boil it all down, this whole profession, this entire process, it's really a conversation. The animal is constantly talking to you, giving you feedback through its behavior. The only real question is, are you ready to listen?